Okay, hello everyone. So my name is Mikael Leinonen. You can also call me Michael or Mikael, whatever. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of MyGamez. We are a Finnish-Chinese company, and I'm actually going to talk to you about China for a moment. So happy to be the Chinese sidekick of this program and hopefully wake you up a little bit by shifting the focus from Finland to East. And MyGamez is a publisher of non-Chinese, casual and mid-core mobile games in China. And I founded the company together with my Chinese partner. We have two offices in Finland and another 2 offices in China, in Shanghai and Tianjin. So for our Russian friends here, MyGamez is your neighbor both from East and West. And so many of you know about China. Some of you know it very, very well, and some maybe not that well. So I'll try to keep this on an educational, cover the basics, but also give some insights on the latest developments in China. So why should you consider going to China with your mobile game? China is already the #1 market in the world globally, and some reports say that it counts over 20% of the global revenues in mobile games. So there's definitely a lot of money to make in China. And there's also not many Western games in Chinese market. So there's the Chinese consumers, they do have appetite for Western content. They do watch Hollywood movies, they do love Western pop, they also love Western games. So there is room for it. And if you manage to get in the Chinese market, then you can actually differentiate there just by being yourself, by being a Western. Then China is also, for quite some time, been a front runner in free-to-play monetization. China is the market is extremely competitive, and the Chinese game publishers are very aggressively developing innovative tactics on game live operations, game marketing. So if you have the resources to really focus on Chinese market and work with the good Chinese partners, then you can actually also learn a lot from there, and some of those tactics that Chinese companies are developing might become useful in other markets. But then China is not for everyone. It's certainly not a low-hanging fruit, although it's a huge market opportunity, but it's also very difficult. So if your resources are small, and if you are not able to take a lot of risk, and if you are not willing to really put a lot of effort on China, in a lot of cases, for many game studios, the best choice is actually to forget about China, because it's a very, very steep learning curve. The market is very, very different from other markets. And there are some obstacles or challenges, barriers for foreign mobile games, coming from government regulations, the need for the localizations, the local operations, and those just require a lot of work. So whether you work, regardless what kind of business model you have with the local partner, it's still going to take a fair amount of effort to be really successful in China. So a good consideration is that should I really go to China, or should I put the same effort and have a bigger success opportunity in other markets? There is not too many big success cases yet for foreign mobile games in China. I mean, there's a good number already, but relatively there are more failure cases than success cases. So it's definitely something that before you put your resources into going to China, you should definitely do a lot of homework and study it well, consider it very carefully. However, if you do decide to give it a go, there's a couple of things you should keep in mind in addition to doing a good homework. So times have changed a lot since the Opium War. The Western imperialists can't anymore just sail their ships to China and do whatever they want. China is now a very strong market, and there are things that we just have to adapt to if we want to enter the market and be successful there. So first one is the regulation. It has been strict always. Some call it protectionist. I'm not going to say that publicly. And it has been becoming more and more rigid and pushing foreign companies in arm's length. There's a lot of competition that you have to consider. The local user behaviors are somewhat different from Western markets. The Android market is a completely different animal. And then you need to have a local partner there. So let's discuss these points one by one. So while President Trump is talking about building a wall, China has already done it. First they built the wall to keep the Mongols out, but now after that they have been building a bunch of virtual walls, and the latest one is pretty much to keep foreign game companies from having too much footprint in the Chinese market. I mean, there are a lot of reasons for the regulations that they have put in place, and there's a lot of room for speculation. What are the true reasons? But the underlying point is that the latest regulation actually forbids any foreign company from publishing and operating games in China by themselves. So any company who does it should be 100% Chinese owned and should have certain business licenses for game publishing. This is very strictly regulated on the Android side. I mean, with the Chinese Android stores, Google Play is not in China. It's not accessible at all. iOS in China has for long been an exception, so it has been a free market for anybody to publish. But now, during the past 6 months, since actually past 1 year, almost since the 1st of July 2016, the new regulations also imply that on the iOS as well there should be a Chinese publisher, and there should be a government approval for every single game. They have been, the regulators have been putting this into practice step by step, and we are still in some kind of a transition phase. So basically, as many of you have probably noticed, if you are putting your game on iOS China, then there's notice for foreign games to give the publication number or the ISBN number for your game, but it's not a hard requirement. Even if you don't keep it, you don't have it, you can still technically publish. If you follow the law strictly, then you should get the government approval, the publication number for your game before you publish it in the iOS in China. So there are now a lot of the leading game companies globally who want to keep publishing in China are actually working to get the approvals for their games. So working with the companies, for example, like MyGamez, to get the approvals. But there's more than that in the regulation. So you actually really have to go strictly by the book. So there's a approval process for every game, which takes for casual games it takes 3 to 4 months to pass for foreign games, and then for core games, RPG games with the more storyline content, it can take from 6 to 8 months to pass the approval process. And there's a long list of requirements that you need to fulfill in order to get the publication number. So those are including the everything has to be 100% localized. So you can't have a single letter of non-Chinese writing in the game. So, for example, XP has to be translated in Chinese. There's also, if you have currently, if you have a voiceover, non-Chinese voiceover, it's okay to have the voice there, but then you need to have a Chinese sort of subtitles or the text there. Basically, any non-Chinese social media is strictly banned, so your Facebook, Twitter integrations have to be gone. Then all the user input must be filtered, so there's a list of forbidden game words from the Chinese Communist Party. So if there's, for example, a user can input the username, then you need to implement the system to check that they are not inputting anything forbidden. Of course, nothing politically sensitive, but then also, for example, excessive violence is forbidden. And the tricky thing is that there's a long set of rules, but most of them are written in a very vague way. So there's a lot of room for interpretation. So what is excessive violence, for example? Our experience from getting the publication approvals for our titles have been, some of them have been funny, some a little bit ridiculous. For example, one of our games had skeletons, and we had to remove them because they were too scary for the Chinese players, according to the authorities. Or one game, there was the word "kill," and we couldn't translate it directly to Chinese as a kill. We had to use some softer expression. So we have to. We can when we prepare the game for the government approval process. We just have to sort of do our best, use our accumulated know-how on what is strictly forbidden and what might have chances to pass the process. Okay. Once you are past the regulation part, then there's a competition. And this is, I just took this from the app Annie, so China iOS top crossing list. So we have Playrix there, we have Supercell there, but all the others are Chinese publishers. And make no mistake, there's very strong publishers in China, and they have huge resources, and for many of them, they put 100% of their resources and effort to their home market, China. So it's definitely a tough competition. Tencent stands out, not just because they have great games, but also because they have just mind-blowing marketing means. So if you get your game out there, make sure you are actually putting some effort to become successful. Localization is something that you need to address, so it goes beyond the language localization. So you typically the monetization design, the tutorials is something that needs to be updated, and then it has to be more frequent service. So you have to provide content updates frequently. You have to have a very good live ops in order to survive in the market. Then is the Android. I'm running out of time, so just very quickly run across a few points. So hundreds of Android stores, literally, and there's no unified billing method in all of these stores. So each of them, they have their own billing SDK and other features on their SDKs. So typically, there's dozens and dozens of stores that you need to cover, and then that means a lot of integrations and a lot of APK builds that you need to maintain. There's also much smaller revenue share, so expect anything from 10 to 25% of the totals to come to you, depending on the deal structure. And the ad-funded monetization is very immature, so you make money with the in-app purchase or you don't make money. Right, so if you do go to China, make sure you find a good partner. And good partner is not just a great company, but it has to be a great fit with you. So you need to have good communication and you need to have aligned goals, because there are so many complexities in Chinese market. There is 100% chance for some kind of challenges and problems along the road. So it's not what is stated in the contract when you start the project. That doesn't matter so much. What matters the most is that the cooperation works, and that's how you can make the project successful. I'll skip the advertisement part. We are working with many of the Finnish and Russian studios from Russia. We are currently working with Joybits, ZeptoLab and Flaregames, and we are looking for more great games to publish in China. So do come to talk to me if you are interested. Thank you.